Hey there, my name is Ben Hartley, and today we're going to talk about how to reduce, maybe even eliminate, more than likely, we're going to greatly dramatically reduce the amount of back and forth time spent on the album design. And here's what I mean. You've designed the album and maybe you presented it to them in person. Maybe you presented this design over Zoom. Maybe actually you designed the album and then you sent it to your client in Proofer. And you're thinking, okay, good. I did the thing. I made the album. I'm stepping into this world of print. I've made the album. I sent it over, and then you get an email back. Hey, Ben. Hey, Jessica. I would love to see a few more photographs of my grandma. You know, could we do that? Or hey, I noticed that there was only a couple images of the centerpieces. Do you have any more? Or actually along the lines of decoration. Hey, so on some of the tables we had short floral, and on some of the tables we had like taller, medium length floral. I didn't see both of those. So let's talk about how to reduce this stuff, because this can just keep going on and on and on and on. And now, you know, if you've been hesitant about stepping into print, maybe this is one of the reasons, is because you didn't want to add another thing, like another back and forth process that you had to manage for your client. I know that was a big fear of mine, was I don't have time for this. I'm doing so many other things. I can't manage the time for all of these back and forth designs. And so, you know, for myself here, I'll briefly introduce a little bit more of me. So this is my family here. I got 3 kiddos. I've got 2 boys. They happen to be twins. My daughter B up there, she's 6. For me, this is like, there's so much time already being spent in the business as it is, with all the editing and all the sales and all of the photographing and everything else going in between the marketing. And then on top of it, I got this family to go home to. and so I'm thinking, listen, I can't get into all of this. Now, we're going to solve that problem for you guys today. All right. So that's gonna be the plan. Before we do that, let me tell you why you should maybe pay attention to me, or at least like give you an idea of who I am, what I'm up to. So I own Style and Story. We were top 10 wedding photographers in the country in 2017. Quarter 1 of 2020, we were number 1 in the country from Masters of Wedding Photography. This is my studio. I really do believe in print. I believe in the power, the importance of print, both albums, but also wall art. We do a lot of our own printing in-house in our studio. And so here's one of our printers. We use a Canon Prograph 1000 for some of our nicer prints. And then we also have a Canon Pixma Pro 100 for our proof prints. It's another conversation. But this is like our little space right here. Now, apart from the family and the studio that I run with Ben Adams, I also host a 6-figure photography podcast. And then apart from all of that, I have a mastermind group over on Facebook. There's like 14,000 photographers there. Definitely come and join that space. It's where I hang out, and I do live training videos, live coaching in there, practically 5 days a week. Okay. And so if you're wondering why, wait, let's get this playing here. Yeah, David. If you're wondering why would I do any of that? Why am I making this video right now? I want to be happy. I've seen a lot of people who got like really successful businesses and they got like wealth and money and all this kind of stuff, and yet they're miserable. And for me, happiness shows up as, number 1, liking myself, like liking who I was that day. Like when I lay my head down at bed, do I like who I was today? And when I wake up, do I like who I'm going to actually become even more? And so liking myself is one thing, and part of that is contributing to others. Like happiness for me is that I like myself and I contribute to others. And so this is one of the ways that I contribute to others. It's the podcast, it's the live videos in my mastermind group, and then it's trainings just like this. All right. And so I'm really grateful for you guys to spend some time with me today. And so let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit more about this. So when it comes to this question of removing or rather reducing the amount of back and forth time that takes place in an album design, okay? It ultimately comes down to one thing, but that one thing is split up into two different ways that we have to understand it. And so the one thing that it ultimately comes down to is when you're hearing a lot of the back and forth of, can I have more of these images? Could you go back and look? What about this? What about that? It ultimately boils down to whether or not you are being viewed as the trusted advisor or someone who's going to help them design their album. Okay, and those are two different things. A trusted advisor versus, yeah, I'll help you design your album. Okay, and a lot of this shows up in the way that we use our language around these terms. And then the way that we use our language changes also how we communicate all of the steps that we're doing. And so we really need to carry this idea that we are the trusted advisor, that this is a service that is worth something to these people. And so the first step is to actually believe, for me to believe that I'm the trusted advisor, that I'm not just someone helping them design an album. Okay. Once I've understood that and I've leveled myself up to that space, the next thing is to transfer that belief that I have in myself over to the client. Meaning, so yeah, I believe that I'm the trusted advisor. Step two is I need to pass that belief onto them so that way the client believes that I'm the trusted advisor. But it must start with us. And I say this because I think there's a lot of photographers who currently don't view the process as I'm the trusted advisor providing them an incredible experience that's actually worth paying for, just in the design itself. Many photographers, maybe for the reason of I'm just not quite fully all in yet. And so right now I'm just kind of helping them design their album. Or I think sometimes we get in our head and we believe that that's all people want us to do, right? That all people want is for us to kind of help them design the album, but they really want to be the ones who design it. Let's start with that, okay? So when it comes to me believing that I'm the trusted advisor, I have to first understand that people want us to help them make decisions, that your clients, they are hiring you for you to help them make decisions. And this is true about the album as well. And I think, again, we get in our heads a little bit and we're well, no, I would want to pick all of my own photographs. I know you say that, but you're also a photographer, right? So think about it outside of the context that we're in with photography. Think about this, maybe your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or boyfriend ever walks in the room and they say, hey, honey, where should we go to dinner today? You're I don't know, babe, you pick. It's we just want people to make decisions for us. Or even when we're painting the house a new color, it's hey, do you like this color or do you like that color? We want people to help make decisions for us. And this is a huge service that we're offering our couples, right? Sorting through all of the images and doing all that heavy lifting up front takes an inordinate amount of time. Okay, it takes a crazy amount of time for us, and we've got the professional tools to do it. If we didn't, the client would be sitting there inside of ShootProof just clicking through each image one at a time and trying to make mental note and downloading individual ones, right? And so we just have to remember that. They are, it even reminds me of when you sit down for dinner and you say, hey, I'm debating maybe between this and this, or what are the popular menus, or what's good here? What are some of your favorite things? Again, we are looking for people to help us to make decisions. And this is a little bit different. It's a little bit different because it's sometimes, again, we think in our head, no, they want to make all the decisions. Yeah, Ben, that's food, though. That's a wall color. These are their memories. These are the stories that we tell ourselves. And it's not that much different. It kind of reminds me of building a home. So my wife and I, in 2014, we built a home. Now, when we built the home, I wanted to be able to choose the flooring. But I, as the buyer of the home, I did not want to actually choose where they sourced the lumber for the main frame of the home. I didn't want to actually be the deciding person who chose what kind of tools they were going to use on site, or again, I don't build homes, so I don't know all the technical terms here, or any of that stuff. I wanted to do the finessing. Get the bulk done. Like, get this structure made. And then I'll come in and I'll make my own front end finesse choices. And there's a really healthy way for us to view what we're doing when I say that we are the trusted advisor for our couples, because that's what's going to happen. We are going to go in and we are going to do all the heavy lifting. We're going to do all of like the bulk editing done up front. When I say like the bulk editing, I mean, we're going to choose like a multitude of the best photographs, and we're going to design an album. And when we design this album, it's going to be far larger than the album that they'll end up leaving with. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then all they do is they come in and I will express this to my couples. And then what you'll do is you'll sit down and you're going to have this beautiful album design right in front of you. And then you're just going to finesse it. You get to come in and you get to finesse the choices. Hey, let's zoom in a little bit more here. Can we make that photograph black and white? Let's switch these two images, right? These are the decisions that we get to empower our couples to make. So let's say that you've acquired now this belief that like, okay, I got it. I'm going to be the trusted advisor in this relationship. How do I now pass this belief on to my client where they actually understand it? They believe it. Because if you can do that, that's what's going to reduce it. Well, it's going to increase trust, and it's just going to dramatically reduce the amount of back and forth requests. And so I'd like to kind of step through a number of ways that we can go ahead and we can pass on that trusted advisor mentality to your clients. And now the first one, don't read too far into this right when I show you, but you could charge for it. You could actually charge for the design. Now, when you charge for something, it's seen as actually it's like it's one step closer to actually being taken seriously, right? It's like when I have to pay for just about anything, I take that experience more seriously. It's why like sometimes Aldi's. I don't know if you guys have a grocery store anywhere near you called Aldi's, but one of the things that Aldi's does is it's a budget-based kind of grocery store, a very like affordable grocery store. And one of the ways that they do that is they've cut costs, and one of the costs that they've cut is by reducing to pay an employee to go out and actually push the carts, collect all the carts from the parking lot, and bring them up to the building. And so what you do is, if you want to get a cart out, you got to give it a quarter. You actually have to put a quarter into the cart, and it releases it. Now, when you're done shopping and you put your cart back away, you get your quarter back. All right. But the fact that they're charging you for the cart, you just like, you take it more seriously. You take the job more seriously to actually bring the cart back, because you also get your money back too. And so when I say charge for the design, it doesn't mean that you actually have to charge a certain fee to design the album, but you could build it in to, let's say, your minimum level of engagement, your like starting price. So like, for example, for me at Style and Story, our minimum level of engagement, our starting price, it's $4,500. And that includes myself as the photographer. It includes 4 hours of coverage. It includes editing of the files. It includes the downloads of those images, and it includes a design of their album. And so I talk about it as that. I talk about the fact that like this is a part of what we're doing. It's the minimum level. I'm going to design an album every time, and it's included in that starting price. That's kind of one way. It doesn't mean it has to be your way. That's one way that you could go about charging for the design. Now, one of the other things that you could do is you could also acknowledge that the initial design consultation that we have is included in your collection. Any additional design consultations that we might need to do beyond this are $200 an appointment. Whatever that number is. Again, this is your business. You got to know your numbers here. I'm just giving you kind of an idea. And you would even acknowledge, listen, we don't ever need to do that. We'll always be able to get the album locked in on that first time. It's just there in case for some reason you do want to come back in, you want to like spend more time, but like it is completely unnecessary to do. There's no reason that you would need to pay an additional rate to come back in. We are going to have it completely designed and perfect for you guys. When you come in, all you'll need to do is finesse it. We'll be able to do it in the single design session. Okay. So it's just one thing you can do to have people take this, both the experience more seriously, but also take you more seriously as someone who is actually you're the trusted advisor, because they're even paying you for it. All right. Next up, the design should be a part of your brand process. Now, when I say your brand process, what I mean is your album design should be something that you talk about early and often, because it's actually a part of your whole brand process. If you've gone through Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand, he says this. He says that there's a character. Now that character is your client. And that character has a problem. Maybe the problem is they need photographs. That's pretty basic. Maybe they want to like, who they look like in those photographs. Whatever it is, they've got a problem. Now, that character has got a problem. They meet a guide. Now that's you. You're the guide. And Donna Miller says this. Donna Miller says that the guide gives them a plan. Okay. And in that plan is a promise, is a commitment, but there's also a process. And that's what we're going to talk about right now, is our process. That your design experience should be a part of the process that you offer up to your clients, that you offer up to the character, right? And then he goes on to say that, he calls them into action and they avoid this failure and they win these successes. Okay. But we need to have an actual process, meaning a step-by-step process that our clients can actually find security in, that they can actually be like, oh, that makes sense. This isn't, I don't need to make up what this whole experience is going to be like. Let me kind of explain it this way. Your client is on one side of a river and you're on the other side. And now our job is to say, hey, client, come over here and hire us. Come over here and be a client of mine, right? And so you need, really in this analogy, they're a lead over here, and then when they join you on this side of the river, they're a client. And so the goal is to get them to come over. Now, when we just say, yeah, hire me as a photographer, your pictures will be great, I'm asking them to jump all the way across, right? All the way across this chasm to be my client. But when we can lay out a process, a step-by-step process for the client to take, it makes it so it's not just one big leap, but there's little pebbles across that riverbed that they can step on, okay? And so what I'm saying is that your design process, your album, it should be baked into your process that you offer your clients. And when it's a part of the overall brand process, the brand experience that a client is going to be sharing with you, it's what, again, continues to create leverage for you as the trusted advisor, like real belief in that, because you're talking about it early and often. This brand process is something that we talk about on our website. We talk about it with every lead when they come in before they ever decide to work with us. We talk about it in our email sequences with our clients as well, leading up to their wedding date. And so because we're talking about this thing early and often, it's just continuing to reinforce that this is a part of the whole experience that they're paying for. This isn't just like a little add-on thing where we're going to help them design an album at the end. No, this is something that we've been crafting, looking forward to, anticipating, and making incredibly special for them. I'll go ahead and I'll share with you my screen where I show our brand promise and how the design is wrapped into that. So here's our process, right? Step 1, become genuinely interested in your story. Step 2, listen to your unique wants, needs, values. Step 3, strategically plan for peace of mind. Step 4 is my mantra on a wedding day: work hard, shoot smart, love well. Step 5, preserve your story as legacy. Now on the step 5, I explained preserve your story as legacy means that I'm not going to let it go to chance that you have a beautifully designed album. Okay, and so I'm going to pour over every image, painstakingly. I'm going to obsess over it, handpick them, and design an album for you that's going to tell your story. Okay, now you can go and make your own album. You can make your own prints. You can do what you want with your photographs. I'm not going to let it go to chance. All right, this is a part of the process that we have. We can talk more about that in a little bit when we get to the albums. That was me kind of role playing with a client there for you guys. Okay, and so that gives a really good, hopefully a good expectation of what that would look like to have the design included a part of that brand process. Now, the next thing that you can do is we're going to talk about albums that we've designed. I'm not just going to talk about like Jack and Jill's wedding album. And here's the difference. A lot of times we get into consultations with our couples, and so, you know, we pull out an album and I'll say, oh, this right here, this is Jim and Jackie's album. And then we start looking through it. Okay. Jim and Jackie's album makes it feel like it's something that Jim and Jackie designed. And what I like to do is I like to say, hey, oh, here, let's take a look. This is an album that I designed for Jim and Jackie. They absolutely loved it. This is a copy that I made, and I just start flipping through. This is a copy that I made here for the studio. Okay. Again, it's just the language that we're using. It's either going to reinforce that you are the trusted advisor, or that you're just someone who's going to like help design the album, and they may need to ask a few more questions and like really dig in to make sure that they get what they want. Okay. So it's a super basic one, but this really does go a long way. Let's keep going. Next up. When the couple comes in, and I make sure that every lead knows this before they hire us, we are going to pre-design an album much larger than what they have. Now, if your couple has a 30-page album, and then you design a 30-page album for them when they come in, and you try to pass it off as like, okay, here you go, this is your album, that won't fly. Okay, that won't fly. Again, that would be like if when building a house, not only did they build the whole structure and they chose the raw materials for the lumber and everything else, but I walked into the kitchen and they were like, here, we painted your cabinets blue. I hope you like it. What we need to do is we need to do the core design, but we need to design much larger for them. That way, again, what we're doing is we are doing all the bulk design, all the heavy lifting, and then they're going to come in and they're going to finesse it down. And so if you're getting these requests, it may be that you're not designing an album big enough that's giving them the freedom of choice to narrow it down to what it is that they would like. All right. So, and typically, my couples, they leave with maybe a 50-page album. When a couple has a 50-page album, I almost always design an album that is about 100 pages, if not like 110, 20 pages, okay? So that means it's about double the size of whatever it is that they're actually going to be narrowing it down to, all right? And so when you do that, when you create an album that's about double the size, it could even be a little bit more. It's going to create so much more freedom for that client. Next, in the verbiage, in the way that I sit down with my couples at the actual reveal. So this is something that I say to the clients. Now, you've already heard me say it once here already. It's just kind of a habit. When I sit down with my couples at the reveal, okay, what I say is this, and right before we actually get into the designing or even showing them the album, we haven't even looked at it yet, I just say, listen, I've been obsessing over every single photograph that I've handpicked for this album. Okay. And now this album, it's still about twice as big as it can even be. And so what we need to do is we need to go through this whole thing and we need to narrow it down together as the final selection. Okay. Something along these lines. What I'm letting them know is that I didn't just willy-nilly design this thing, that like I really was intentional and I made something very specific for their story. And it's much larger, like that we've got work to do. And this work is going to take some time, all right? But if I hadn't have done this, it would have taken even longer, all right? And so when I say, listen, we're going to have everything designed today. There won't be any back and forth through email of like, could you imagine if we had to get to that spot where it's like, hey, on page 32, on the bottom right-hand corner in the middle of the page, switch picture 503F with, page 34, 502, like it just becomes insane. And so we're not going to do any of that. We're going to get it all designed today, right here. All right. Now, this is the next thing that I do is before I show the album. Again, this is stated here before I show the album, and I'm going to share this again. Now, I'm about to put the album up on screen, and we're going to start to go through it. There's going to be images that you are going to want to see all of the small variations in. Okay. And so I made sure to include all of those variations. So if you feel like you're seeing repeats as I share with you the slideshow of the album, it's because I want you to choose the exact image you love. This is something that you need to intentionally do. You need to intentionally, in your album design, I'll share with you my screen here, intentionally in your album design, put redundant images in it. This is counterintuitive, but you need to intentionally put redundant images in your album design, and then you need to draw attention to it before you start the slideshow. All right. And again, what I'm going to say is, hey, in this album design, there's certain photographs that I really wanted you to decide the nuance. They looked really similar to me, but I wasn't sure if you were going to like the way you looked this way or this way. And so I've included all the variations in the album design. So in case you see some repeats or something that feels like, why did you include duplicates? It's because I want you to choose the exact photograph for your album. This is a very intentional and strategic thing that will, this actually alone, if you start doing this, will really make the couple feel like they are choosing and they're seeing all these little variations. You know, that's where they start to get in their head of like, well, is there another picture of me where I look kind of like this instead of like this? And if you give them a few of those things throughout the album, it's really going to remove that. And so the area that your couples are going to want to see those redundancies the most is in the more like formal photographs. So if you're doing like a bridal session, make sure that you include like back to back to back bridal pictures in a spread kind of like this, if not another fourth one in here, where the bride, they all kind of look similar, but you have the multiple variants of it, okay? So you're going to want to do those for the bridal portraits, maybe for a couple more formal photographs like this. Like again, you know, this photograph here where they're close up, this one where they're kind of apart, this one where he's hugging her from behind. I don't think they all need to be in the album, but I'm just throwing up a signal that I'm thinking about this. As the trusted advisor, I was aware that she's going to like one of these more, and I'm calling attention to it. Now that I've called attention to it and she decides, we're like, she knows that I'm thinking about that kind of stuff. The next place that this is going to become an issue is making sure that you show representation of all of like the family formal options. So we need to essentially identify that like there are certain more like, I don't know if like triggering is the right word, like more triggering moments, more triggering photographs, types of images that bring about these requests. Okay. And so when you show intentionally duplications of like all of the bridal portraits, all the more formal photographs of like the bride and groom together, these like variations like that, when you show them and then you let the couple know that you're doing that, that's one tick. That's awesome. The second one is that these family formal photographs. So in the album design, I'll make sure that I just grab a spread and I will typically load up a spread of like all the family formals, okay? And it'll be like some ridiculously packed spread. And then I'll have one next to it that's just like, you know, couple A's for largest family group, and then couple B's, you know, or person B's largest family group, okay? And we just get one big one. And then again, it just gives me the chance to say, hey, this is your album, and I know you're going to want to see all the different options for family pictures. What most couples do is they just have the largest group on either side. That's what I have here, but I have the other pool of all the other photographs to look from. And again, it's just letting the client know that I'm thinking about them, that I'm thinking that they're going to want to see these photographs to make this decision. And so typically they just go, yeah, we don't need to look at all those. Let's just stick with the two that you've chosen right there. And I say, lovely, that's awesome. But otherwise, if I didn't do that, if I only showed the two family photographs in the back of their mind, they're thinking, man, it'd be really nice, though, to maybe see the other family formal photographs just to make sure that we're choosing the right one, okay? And so, again, I've done this long enough that I'm anticipating. I know that I need that. They need that checkbox done, all right? And as long as I just have them up there loaded up, they don't need to be perfectly designed. And again, I just acknowledge there's just a pool of them right here. If you need to see them, most couples do this, all right? And so there we go. That's another one. Now, with this, you really do have to design, like, intelligently an album specifically for that couple, okay? Like, you want to make sure that you do include all of the moments. So yes, while we're including variations in the family formals, we also need to just include all of like the main moments that you documented. All right. And so as you're going through, what I like to do is I will go through in Photo Mechanic and I'll just slide through all of the images, and I'll just, again, I'm looking for each story, and I'll try to just make a spread for each story. And again, as long as you do that, as long as you're designing intelligently as if you were actually trying to share their story accurately, and you hit every representation of those images, of those stories, you'll be good. Okay. If you start skipping stuff and they go, hey, where was that photograph, or where was that moment when, James's dad was helping him get his suit on, and you go, oh yeah, I didn't put that in the album. That's what's going to fire off red flags for the client, and they're going to start asking more questions. Oh, you didn't. I wonder what else you didn't choose. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you show representation of every story in this album in some way. So the last one that we'll cover today is that your client has 48 hours. So we allow them 48 hours to send in a request. And so with the 48 hours to send in a request, let's say we get to the whole, we go through the whole design over Zoom or in person, and maybe they do express, a hesitation that maybe they, well, I'd like to see, the other photographs or, whatever it is. If they ever say that, if they ever express any sense of hesitation, I just let them know that they've got 48 hours to send in any sort of request through email. Now, what we end up doing is I print off little thumbnails of all of the designs of each spread that I've done. And when I say print them off, just like basic computer paper on like an office printer. Okay. And so I print off the thumbnails, and then I have them sign at the bottom. And at the bottom, it says that they approve the design and that this design will be ordered in 48 hours unless a written request has been sent. Okay. And so I just let them know, they sign it right there. And this helps with a couple things. Number one is, it helps to really make the deal feel like completely official and done. It helps so that way, if I ever do get that request where like they receive the album and then I get a phone call that says, hey, we got the album, it's great, but this spread looks different than what we designed, I can go and I can check what they signed, and I can look at that thumbnail and go, oh, nope, this is what we designed. It's right there. You signed it. And then again, it just further removes the anxiety around like, well, what if there's another picture? What if I need to see something else? I do give them 48 hours. But I'm here to say that after this whole process is done in a given year, I mean, we typically do, over 50 weddings a year. In a given year, we may get one request a year, and it'll literally just be an email that'll say, hey, I found this photograph I like. Can you find a place for it in the album? Okay. They just want us to find a place for it. It'll just be like one image. But typically when we're going through the whole process like this, the narrowing down takes time. It takes energy. They see how much we're actually pouring into it. We've given them all the other signals. We really are the trusted advisor. At the end, when they're signing off on it, they really are signing off on like, this is the album that they've made. They're super happy with it. Okay. And with that being said, the requests for changes, they really do get eliminated. You guys, if you like this video, if you've got more questions for me, if you want to talk about it, we'll be doing Q&A here in a second, but I want to encourage you to come and join my mastermind group. If you just type in Ben Hartley mastermind, you can probably find it on my personal page. There's 14,000 photographers there. It's where I hang out all the time, and I love to continue to give you value. There's a ton of free workshops that are already in the group and will continue to drop into that group as time goes on. And so thank you so much for this opportunity to share some of the things that are working for me in order to get designs and albums in clients' hands without all the back and forth. Bye, everyone. Okay, so let me, would it be okay if I answer a few more of these questions?
Of course, yeah, please go in. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So it looks like Johanna says, by the way, I'm going to do my best to actually pronounce people's names, but then give me some grace, but also feedback on when I butcher it, okay? But I'll do my best to always take a stab. So anyway, so Johanna says, what if they don't send in requests and you have pages with duplicate images on them? So I won't ever have a page with duplicate images on it because I'm designing with my client in person. I say in person in quotes because it's 2021. And so that may be in person over Zoom, but like we are having a design session together and we are finalizing that album together. And so there won't ever be a place that they've got duplicate images in there that we haven't caught during that design experience. Okay. Okay, good. Shannon, tell me it was frozen. Katrina says this. Did you say that all your collections come with an album? Let's start with that first question. Yes. So all of my collections come with a bare minimum of the album design, meaning I'm designing an album and I'm going to host a reveal either over Zoom or in person. That's happening whether or not you're going to buy the album. Bare minimum, I'm designing it. Now, I've got an interesting setup here that is going to make people mad and confused, and you're going to want to tell me why I'm doing it wrong. But I I do intentionally 5 different collections that I offer my wedding clients. Now, don't do that. That's not prescriptive. Don't do that. If you try it, it'll just mess everything up. It'll be information overload, analysis, paralysis, all that kind of stuff. So don't do it unless you know how to do it. So I'm telling you this though, because out of the 5 collections, 4 of them do include the physical album. My very entry level one, it just includes the design experience and the reveal. Okay. Now let's go back to the second part of your question, Katrina. Is that why you order within 48 hours? It's already paid for. Well, no, I'm collecting payment. So yes, they technically, I mean, if they just kept their album, a 20-page 8x8 album, and they didn't upgrade it at all, great. I'm ordering in 48 hours. But at that design, hopefully, my wish for them is that they do invest into actually memories, and they do invest into something, not just because of the profits for my business, but because I believe it's the best thing for them and their life. And if they're going to blow their money on some bullshit, might as well blow it on something that actually means something. And so I hope that they, invest. And then they pay me right then. They pay me before I order the album. I collect payment. And so, yeah, that's why I would not order the album. Just to be clear, if they upgrade the album, but they don't pay me right then, I'm not ordering it until the payment comes in. Okay. Feel free to hop in, Andrew.
Yeah, and I have some questions too. So I think some of the questions are, I think, kind of to frame things. So for example, Brett is asking if there's one photo on a spread and they ask to change that to a vertical, is he just putting a vertical on one page and leaving the other page blank? And another question is, if you're designing the album together with them, how do they approve it? So I think it's important to really define what we're doing here, right? So just as Ben and I are talking, Ben would be sharing his screen with me as the client, and we would be finalizing that design together. And so part of that, process with the vertical horizontal question is that, you would be sitting with your client designing, be like, hey, do you like it like this? Or we can take one image from this page and put it on here to maybe create a better balance. So it's a collaborative process, right? And we're reaching that final conclusion together as a client and photographer, so that when that approval's done, we did it together. So we're just done, right? There's no extra step. There's not a step 2.
And Brett Moist's question's a little confusing to me. I know, Brett, good to see you, buddy. I'm not going to leave something ugly. Like if it's a shit design, I'm going to say like, hey, this is, I can't recommend that you do this. Yeah. Like what if we did? But then I also help come up with solutions. Yeah. It's kind of like when someone's giving you feedback and they're just telling you all the wrong things. Yeah. Like I'm constantly also solving problems. I say, okay, this spread right here, is this getting honestly, it's a little too cluttered. It's feeling like the images, it's hard to read. I really recommend we need to split this up, or we need to remove some of these images. I'm noticing these 2 here do feel redundant. Which of these 2 do you like more than the other? You like this one more. Perfect. Do you agree that we should delete this one right here? That'd be my recommendation. Okay, good. Let's do that. Let's delete that. Now we've got more space. And so I really do fight for great design. Like I want this thing. I'm going to be proud of this. I want to be proud of it as well. I'm going to be showing people this design. So Danielle says, do you collect a retainer or payment in full? I love to collect the payment in full. I'd say 9.9 times probably even. I just collect it in full if we can. If there is some sort of payment plan that we've agreed to, that's up to you and how you want to run your business. But my recommendation is that you don't order the printed product until the final payment's in, not once the down payment's in. You don't order the printed product until the final payment is in. Yeah.
So another one, so we have, I'll just kind of feed these to you. How long is your reveal? Like how long is that process usually with your clients to?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, the reveal, I'm in the wedding space. This is important to note because I think it's a longer process for weddings. Typically, there's more imagery to look through. And so for us, an album reveal with a wall art portion connected to it as well for the whole thing, sitting down, champagne, connecting with them, going through the album, revealing. We do like a physical printed reveal wall. I've got a Canon ProGraph 1000 here. So like we're really doing a whole experience is around that 3-hour mark. And that's where I want things to be. And then in that, it's a single session that everything gets finalized. Okay. So like I want the album to be good to go, designed, refined, ready to order by that point. Okay. Now that's the average length. Sometimes they can go longer because they brought their kids. Sometimes they can go shorter because they're really decisive and they know what they want to make, but that's the average. I saw this one. This is actually a really big question. Do you let this comes from Chinling. Do you let your clients choose their favorite images from the gallery before you design it? I do not. Now, as a portrait photographer, there's certain niches within the portrait space that might make sense for them to go through because maybe you only have 30 photographs after maybe a boudoir session. You do a same day reveal where you do some quick skin retouching. They choose their favorites. You design some artwork. That makes sense. So this isn't a global statement that I have, but within the wedding space, no, I am designing, I'm handpicking all the images. This is why you do need to design an album that's bigger than what they are going to walk away with typically, right? So to put that into context, with a wedding, I tend to deliver around 700 photographs. My album, I will typically design an album based on around maybe 300 photographs, okay? That then with those 300, it'll be maybe a 100-page, album or something like that, and we'll narrow that down then to the final. Now, this is the objection that everyone has. This is the objection that photographers have. This is why I was saying that you've got to believe that you're the trusted advisor as a photographer, because all the photographers have the objection that your clients don't have, and the objection that the photographers have is, but they need to see them all, Ben. No. That's your stupid objection. By the way, I'm yelling at myself because I used to feel that way too. So it's like, I used to think that it's because I wasn't viewing myself as a trusted advisor. Okay. What they need to feel is they need to feel like they trust you. They need to feel like someone is making decisions and helping to craft an incredible album that'll tell their story. But they also do need to feel like they have decision in that. They do need to feel like they can finesse it. That's why it has to be larger. So they do get those choices to narrow it down. But again, even within those choices, this is why I'm doing things where I'm putting intentional duplicate images in there, like duplicates. They're not exact duplicates, but where they get to feel like, oh, they are choosing which angle of their selves they like, or the closed mouth smile versus the open mouth smile. They are getting to select those things. And when they get that validation that they're getting to choose those things, they fully agree. The last thing is this: you have to price yourself appropriately. So meaning, when people are narrowing this stuff down and they're also making their album bigger, they're spending thousands of dollars, and they're actually will be grateful. They'll be like, thank you that you didn't try to get me to see every single picture, because I would have wanted to buy even more of them, and this would have taken even longer. The exact thing that we're scared of, that they're going to want to see every single one, the opposite is true, where they will thank you for actually doing some filtering for them. They'll be like, my goodness, this would have taken an entire day to go through every single one, and I would have been paying thousands of more. Thank you for doing this for me. It's an objection that photographers have because this is what we do, right? We get in our own way.
So another question. So we have a couple questions from Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you answer this one because I'm slightly biased on this one.
Okay.
Someone says they are using Album Stomp, and what would be a reason to switch over to Fundy Designer?
Okay. So I've never used Album Stomp, and there's probably good reason why. So I don't know enough about albums, so I can't speak directly to that. What I can let you know is that there's nothing that does what Fundy does. It was really funny, Andrew. So I've got a photography group, like I said, it has like 15,000, like 14,700 photographers in it. And somebody said, hey, I'm trying to design albums. What software do you recommend? And they said, Fundy was in there and then like a few others. And literally in my entire group, it was 99.9% people just being like Fundy, 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 Fundy. And then one person added some random thing. I don't even know what it was. But so the perks of Fundy is that it's at least as far as I understand, BlogStomp is like Fundy is it's the only thing that like intelligently redesigns as I'm making changes. And I don't know, sure you can correct me here, Andrew, but like what I mean is I can click a button and it'll just auto design the entire album. Then from there, let's say that I'm looking at a spread with a client that I've designed intentionally beautifully with like maybe 3 images or 4 images across it, right? And it looks great. And they say, I don't want that picture right up there. And I click delete. When I click delete, there's not just an empty piece of paper there. Like there's not just like an empty space. Fundy intelligently, algorithmically redesigns the spread in a way to just make it all look good. And it makes me look like a magician. The clients are like, oh my goodness, I need this software. So everything is just intuitive and it is, it's one of the few things though of like AI that like I don't get mad at. When sometimes computers try to be smarter than you and you're just like, stop.
Yeah. And so, that's one thing it's patented. And so that, moving or adding images, or you can swap a vertical and a horizontal and just figures it out for you.
Yes.
Right. So I always view a computer shouldn't do things for you. They should make the things that you want to do faster and easier. Right. Mm-hmm. So you're making the choices. We just kind of take that legwork out for you, Yeah. And then the other thing is, you can also design wall art and studio magazines and cards and do slideshows, like, so you can do all this other stuff too. So that's another big thing, is that it just
yeah, that's the really big thing, is like it's not just album design, it's like it's all print sales. It's like if you want to sell a little gallery collection like that, you can mock that up inside of Fundy with the exact mat and the exact frame from your supplier on your client's wall down to the 1/4 inch, so yeah. Okay, there's a couple of the questions here that I'm seeing. One said, I'm looking to do same-day reveals for my portrait clients. Mm-hmm. Any tips on implementing this? Back to one of the things that's really powerful about Fundy is a really great thing about same-day reveals. Number one is with a same-day reveal, hopefully you've got your and you're doing portraits. Hopefully you've got like your look down like pat, where you're really making sure that your exposure is like accurate throughout the session. And maybe you can throw those through Lightroom with just your little like look preset. You know what I mean when I say like a look preset? Like it's going to do your little black clipping or your tones for the blues, where they turn a little turquoise or whatever it is that you do, right? So you can tone the pictures, but then you throw them into Fundy. And inside of Fundy is a skin retoucher, like an auto skin retoucher. It uses clear, what is it? Clear? Perfectly clear, yeah. And so then you can just click a button, and then you can also do like a skin retouching across the entire collection of images. Enough, again, maybe you keep it at that. But at the very least, it's enough that when the clients see their photographs, they've got your tone, they've got some skin retouching done, they've got the right pop, and then enough so they can sign off on the album, they can sign off on wall art, and then you can go through and you can make your like little tweaks after that. But that's one of the things that Amber that really helps with that is the skin retouching.
Yeah, and Amber, if you go to fundy.com/guides, the workflow guide has some information on that too. And, also our friend Jason Marino, this is what their whole studio does. And his process even eliminates one step. So in their studio, they shoot RAW and JPEG together. And then they go to the computer, they split out the RAWs and the JPEGs, and they import the JPEGs only straight out of camera into Fundy Designer, apply the skin retouching, because they explain to the client, hey, I'm going to show you the naked photos basically, right? this is, if you look up on our walls or in the albums, you'll see what the final retouched photos. So we're going to use these photos, go through the process. Once they've completed that order, in the order worksheet, you can just copy and paste all of the photos in the order, paste those into Lightroom, pull up just those raws, retouch those raws, and off to the races with the ordering process, right? So about that workflow, there's a couple different ways to do it.
Yeah, I just want to further recommend Jason Marino for that. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, do you edit all the pictures before making the design? Yeah, listen, I'm a wedding photographer, and my average investment that a client spends is around $9,400 with our studio. I charge enough money that I can deliver an incredible experience that I don't need a nickel and dime it, meaning I don't need to only edit or only skin retouch the photographs that the client has purchased wallet for. That may make sense for certain niches again, like, maybe that makes sense for we do our newborns, certainly, but charge enough money where upfront where you can actually do.
And I think it's important to delineate between processed in Lightroom and one-click skin retouching versus pulling every single photo into Photoshop and, spot heal and do all of that.
Yeah. And like frequency separation. I'm not doing that. Exactly. Andrew, really important. Yeah. This isn't like magazine editorial spreads where I'm like making everybody look that bronze skin toner. No, exactly that. It's like batch editing Lightroom
with the liquify tool for me right here.
I am doing brush work inside of Lightroom, but it's still inside of Lightroom. And again, we often over catastrophize things. It's like we like, you think that's going to take forever, but I'm suggesting to you, if you just do skin retouching and spot removal, a little detexture and a little declarity with a brush, only on the bride and groom and only on portraits where they are at least 3/4, and only when they're looking at the camera and only when you need it because the lighting is maybe making things, it's actually so few photographs. I'm telling you, it's so few. And sure, sometimes you get unlucky and someone shaved their beard wrong and they got all the little things and the stuff. But other times you also get lucky and you just photograph like perfect skin and then you don't have to do nothing. Okay. Jamie, I see Jamie asked this question twice, and so I want to answer it. He's my buddy too. So Jamie says, by doubling the number of pages that you design, again, he's suggesting that if a client has already pre-purchased a 50-page album, I'm going to design 100. Is this supposed to get them to want more pages because they see it all in front of them? Well, yeah, it certainly does helpful. I mean, it's definitely like, it's harder for people to just want to add on more things. Let's say that I only designed a 50-page album. And then I said, Andrew, would you like to buy another page for $100? It's harder for you to be like, yeah, because you already see it completed in front of you. It's easy for you to just be like, no, this is good. I'm fine. And
we can't imagine the thing that we might want to buy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's like you want to buy this Honda or this Toyota or some imaginary car that you can think of. Like, well.
Yeah. So it does do that. However, it also is designed to make sure that I'm giving the client the appropriate level of freedom to choose what they want represented in their album. I mean, this is a lifetime purchase for them. This is something that they're going to have forever. And so I do want to honor that. And I do want them to be able to make finessing decisions to narrow that thing down to exactly what they want. I don't have a problem with it. If they do decide to narrow all the way down and they don't add on anything, I'm still here for it. Again, I'm charging an appropriate amount up front that like anything else is bonus. And I'm still going to support and create an incredible design for them.
So one question, because we're kind of in the IPS presentation, at what point do you send an online gallery so they can view all of their photos?
When they go home. They don't see their entire online gallery until they leave my studio. And I tell them there'll be an email waiting in their inbox. Okay. Again, y'all catastrophizing this, y'all making up all kinds of objections about like why that's not going to work. And that you can, I mean, everyone says, awesome. Can't wait to see everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. I want the reveal. And I tell them this before they hire me. The first time you see your photographs, you're going to come in through this door. I'm going to hand you a glass of champagne. You're going to walk over to this wall and you're going to physically see your photographs printed, matted, and framed hanging up on my wall. It's going to be the first time you see them. And your heart is going to fill the space. It's going to blow you away. And you're going to spend 20 minutes holding your photographs and just reminiscing on what that day looked like. Then we're going to sit down and you guys are going to pour a second glass of champagne and I'm going to share with you a slideshow of the day, but this time the slideshow of the day, you're going to see the day unravel as a narrative, meaning your individual photographs are going to be seen in context next to the other. So that picture of you walking down the aisle is going to be seen side by side with the tears running down your fiance's face. So it creates the actual narrative. I want you to see the day unfold as a story. Okay. And then we're going to narrow that album down. You're going to choose the final selection of images. You're going to order your wall art. We're going to order the album that night. And when you go home, you'll have the rest of your photographs waiting for you two to go through privately. Now that sounds like a service. That doesn't sound like a hindrance. That doesn't sound like, well, you don't get your pictures until you come in for an appointment. It's an experience I'm giving them. Notice even the way I said it, then you get to go home and you get to review the remaining photographs privately together. And you get to pour your third glass of champagne. Anyhow.
So a couple things. One, so no sneak peeks online before?
One image.
One image.
One image. They get one photograph on Instagram prior to the wedding. Any more than that, and you're just sabotaging the sale. Okay. Yeah. One image. Yep. When do you share your prices? Okay.
So I was at, at a conference or something. I was taking pictures and printing them out on that little Canon selfie. I know you have one little Canon 4x6 printer. Jason Dominguez, he'll print out 10 photos at the end of the day on the wedding and give them the prints. And then that's it. That's the last time they see their photos until they're in the IPS session. Right.
That's great. Yeah. Love it.
And I think I want to read this off, but I think the key to Esther's problem goes back to the very beginning of the presentation when you talk about being a designer or being an expert consultant in the process. So since doing IPS consultations, it's taking multiple Zoom meetings to get through the image selection and album design, even with my pre-designed albums, as my clients seem to have less time and patience than when in person. So Zoom over in person, right? And even when in person, it can take more than 3 hours to finalize the album and wall art decisions.
A couple of things. One is, it sounds like a lot to do with managing expectations. Just really giving them a clear expectation for what this time should look like, how they should treat it. You can also kind of psych up the Zoom reveals where you can send them a box. I'm talking about serving champagne or something physically in person, but you can also send them a little box inside of a box that says don't open until I reveal at this time. Yeah. And maybe in there could be a surprise print, or you could even break the law and send them some champagne or, or just something, a little treat, to really create maybe even a candle in there that they light, but to really kind of almost create atmosphere even while they're there at home, and reciprocation and engagement with this. A phone call before a reveal, even over the phone, Zoom reveal, a phone call prior to that goes a long way to just, again, hey, we're going to be meeting here on Tuesday, and I just want to kind of review what that time is going to look like, how much time you should block off, what we're going to be doing. I also want to make sure that you invite any decision makers, right? So if your parents are interested in purchasing an album, I would love to have them come and be a part of that session with us. Again, you're also, even in those things, you're reminding them this is a time to make purchasing decisions. And so that can go a long way managing that expectation. So, and then the last thing is this, the way that you actually sell or offer your upsells, offer your additional pages can greatly affect the time that it takes to go through it. So if you're just doing everything a la carte, completely a la carte, add on a page, add on a page, add on a page, add on a page, that takes more time than if you create some pre-made bundles, essentially. You just say, hey, do you want this? Would you like this bundle? And maybe that's an 80-page, 12 by 12, leather-bound, debossed album. And they just say, yeah. Yeah. Now you know exactly what to get to. You know exactly what your aim is, and now it's less back and forth and all that. And
I wonder if one of the issues here that Esther might be experiencing how many photos do you actually have loaded into Fundy Designer from the wedding day that you're, is it every single photo that is in the keeper pile, or is it a reduced amount, just enough to allow them to have a few swaps here and there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sorry, that was a question. Do you have all of the photos in there, or is it a reduced amount of photos when you're doing the presentation?
While we're waiting for a question, because there might be a delay, I'm going to pop in. I'm going to sneak an answer in for another question. I just
Okay.
want to keep going. Kathy says this: do you share your price list? Yes. Anything less than sharing the price list before they hire you. Listen, I really believe in this. I share it when they're a lead, when they're not a client, they know my print pricing. I really believe in that transparency. Otherwise, you start getting into a little bit of the bait and switch, a little bit of the manipulation, a little bit of like, it just kills your reputation. It'll kill your sale. So I do believe in letting people know where prices fall. There is some variancy with that. I think within like the portrait space where you can let people know, hey, we start at X. Most people spend an average of, 4,000 or whatever. And maybe you're not sending over every little thing for portrait, like every line item, but it is important to give people a really clear expectation and an honest expectation for where your print prices are. I believe in that. Did she answer yet? I didn't see a reply. So I'm just going to answer another question. Is that cool for you?
Yeah, go for it.
When does the client first see an album in the pre-wedding planning process? When does the client first see an album?
Like a sample album, probably.
Yeah. Well, before they're a client, they would see it when they're a lead. I want, again, because this is a part of the process. So they're hearing about it on the website. They're hearing, I'm going over all of it. We're talking about on the phone call, talking about it in a consultation. Maybe we're in person, maybe we're not, but we're looking at stuff. And so they're very aware that it's like it's a full part of the experience. One of the people I'd recommend you guys look at, I know that she's no stranger to this community, but Michaela Jade over at the Printographer Society, she's excellent at also showcasing print product just in her social media, on her Instagram. And so like people are exposed to it as a brand identity signal.
And the website.
Exactly. Website.
So, even, I recommend that potential clients should see photos of albums and wall art mock-ups on your website or social media before they are even, considering calling or contacting you.
Yeah. Kathy says this, I meant, will you share your personal price list with us? That won't help. I'll tell you right now, but it won't help you. So like it just won't.
Yeah.
That's like, will it help you to understand like that I charge $10,000 for wedding photography? Like, I guess maybe it'll get you inspired or something. But like, so for a 20-page 8x8 album, we charge $2,000 for that. So 20-page 8x8, we are ordering through KISS. So KISS Albums is where we get our books from, our albums, our signature albums from. Heirloom albums, I think is what they call them. So, but yeah, a 20-page 8x8 is $2,000. And then each page is $100. That means a spread is $200. So that's how that should give you a good idea, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Julianne, how much time after the wedding day is your album reveal session with the client? Oh man, I'm about to piss people off. Okay.
Woo! Let it go.
So y'all competing on functional value. And when I say that, most photographers, this is why that last question is a functional value question of like, how much do you charge for albums or whatever? So we find ourselves just constantly racing to the bottom and we're constantly competing with everybody around us from a functional level. When I say a functional level of value, it tends to be like very external. It's like, how cheap can I get this thing? How quickly can I deliver it? How simple can I make the process? These are all important things, but they're also very commoditized things. They're very functional. And so there's a really great book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. And the Blue Ocean Strategy suggests that what if we stop trying to compete with everybody? What if we actually made the competition irrelevant by creating a leap in value, a complete leap in value that just nullifies everybody else? And the way that you do that is you look at the industry that you're in and you ask yourself, what does every other photographer over-index on? What are they overemphasizing? And how can I underemphasize that? And then also, where's the rest of the industry under-indexing on? Where are they underemphasizing? What are they kind of ignoring or they're sweeping under the rug? And how can I elevate that thing? And this is one of those things that the industry has decided that the faster, the better. Now, when you look at the luxury market, that's not true. When you look at buying a Lambo, when you look at buying like a Louis Vuitton bag, speed isn't it. Speed's not the variable that value is decided. It's actually the inverse. It's actually takes longer. It's more painful. It's like it's the inverse. And so intentionally, I don't deliver my photographs to my clients until 8 to 10 weeks. I wait till after 2 months to deliver my pictures, but I do it as a value. And I throw y'all under the bus. I say, listen, everyone else is just going to try to get to the pictures as fast as possible so that way they can wipe their hands clean. I'm going to obsess over every single photograph. I'm going to be doing skin retouching and spot removal on every picture of you too. From there, I'm going to print your own artwork and I'm going to do it in the studio. I'm going to print your artwork. I'm going to mat it and I'm going to frame it. Then I'm going to hand pick photographs and I'm going to design an album for you guys. That way, when you come in and I describe the whole experience that they're going to have. And when I do it in this way, it's positioned as a value where they're like, oh man. And then when they go meet with the next photographer who's like, you're going to get them in 4 days. That's kind of like wah. Huh. Okay. Cool. That's fine. But now we're getting into some other things. So I'll stop.
That's awesome. So let's see. Okay. We covered those. Any last minute questions for people? And then, how do you do parent albums? So
yeah,
quick thing, functionality. A lot of people miss it sometimes, but you can create a revision or a duplicate album in Fundy Designer just by clicking the little double square box next to the album name. You can even change the size, the dimensions. You take a square album, make it vertical, make it horizontal, doesn't matter, vice versa. But then from a sales standpoint, well, how do you approach parent albums?
Yep, parent album, flat fee. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to say yes. Especially when you have such a complicated, and when I say complicated, there's a lot of decisions going into designing an album. And because of that causes fatigue, it causes, decision overload. And so any additional purchases, I just want the answer to be yes. Yeah. It's like, super simple. Yeah, I'll have that. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Mm-hmm. And so it's a flat rate. It doesn't matter. It's a flat rate. So like an 8x8 album, it's going to be like, it's $1,000, exactly what it is. And then it's an exact duplicate of whatever the album is that we just designed. Okay. Which means, it also means that like the more pages they add on to their album, it also means that they technically like get a bigger album for their parents for the same amount of money. Yeah. And so when people start adding on, 30 pages, it also makes it hard to say no to just an exact copy of the book that they're not paying for the extra pages. It's just like, yes, I'll have that flat fee. If they don't want the same pictures somebody just asked, well, then great. I will meet with your parents for their own design consultation. But now this isn't a parent album. Now this is a new custom album. And we're back to just like a 20-page 8x8 is $2,000. If they want to upgrade it, now we're just going through the whole process with a new client, really. And it's no longer a parent album. This is now mom and dad's custom album. Yeah. And that's fine. If they want a custom, they can pay for it. Yeah.
And that's the real... I think that's so important because so many creatives have so little value for their own time, right? They're like, and they, chase that parent album for the same price and, meet with the parents, sign a whole new thing, charge the same price, but it's not the same thing. People understand that we have to pay for different services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Should we wrap up there? Do you want me to do more?
Yeah. No, let's wrap up. When do we get to fly around and see each other?
Hey,
when are you gonna come jump out of a plane with me?
Whenever the government tells us we can do it. It's like, apparently that's where we're at. So as soon as they say, let's go, then let's go, baby.
Yeah. I want to put one little nugget in your ear. We haven't announced it yet. We will be announcing it in November, probably sometime in Arizona where it's warm. We will be doing a non-conference where it's a conference, but there will be no speakers. Everybody just shows up and has fun. So,
I love that. Please, it'd be incredible.
Yeah. Because all the good education takes place over drinks next to the pool anyway.
Yes. That's awesome. I'm for it. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks guys. Have a great day. Again, all of these videos will be pushed up to our YouTube channel. I'm not in charge of pushing that up, so I'm not exactly sure, but it will be within the next less than a week.
Okay.
Talk to you later, guys. Thank you,
Thanks
Ben.
for this opportunity.
To Leslie and the kids.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody. Bye.
Bye.